teams are PBEM, which is the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management, and Portland Fire and Rescue to provide emergency disaster assistance within their own neighborhoods. At the end of our meeting tonight, after Kathy's presentation, we're going to have about 15 to 20 minutes for some networking and mingling. We want to make sure that neighbors get the opportunity to talk to one another. And then we're going to need to wrap at 8:50 so that we can put away chairs and get out of here by 9 p.m. to respect the hard work of the custodians helping us out this evening. So we'll have a hard cutoff time for mingling. I know that's going to be tough. All right, so now we're going to move into the upcoming events on the Roseway calendar. This is a really exciting new update. You can now visit roseway.org/calendar and learn about all sorts of really incredible upcoming events. So this includes events put on by the Roseway Neighborhood Association, as well as other community events being put on by local partners, including Southeast Uplift. So it's like color-coded on the calendar. I can't see it, but there's all sorts of great stuff on there and lots of details, and you can follow along. A quick highlight of a couple of events that are upcoming. Next Tuesday, or not next Tuesday, May 13th will be the next monthly Roseway board meeting. So we have these quarterly community meetings. There will be another community meeting happening in July, but we also have monthly board meetings that are an opportunity to go a little bit deeper on a variety of topics. And all are welcome to join us at that. And you can also join via Zoom. And the Rocky Butte Farmers Market is going to start up next month in May, on May 24th, which is really exciting. So that'll be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Saturday, all throughout the summer on Northeast Siskiyou and Northeast 80th. This is kind of a new up and coming date. So in case y'all are big fans of the Roseway Dumpster Day, that's usually held in August, but this year is going to be held in June. So right now we've got a date set for June 28th. So that's a little earlier than usual. Make sure to mark your calendars, and we'll be sharing out more information about that shortly. And then exciting news, but we're going to be working on mural preparation and painting on the Roseway Parkway the weekend of July 24th, 23rd, the 29th. And Catherine is going to share a lot more about that in just a minute. So those are some of the upcoming things to look forward to in the next couple months as we roll into summer. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Catherine Clark to share more about the Roseway Plaza. Give it up for Catherine. It's a long walk up on this meeting.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Catherine Clark. I'm a member of the board, current treasurer, and co-lead for our placemaking committee along with Chris Hansen, our president. And I've been involved with Parkway tree planting and care, maintenance of the Parkway since 2015, because I think it's a really special place. But I'm going to give you an update about all of the exciting changes on our plaza at Northeast Mason and 72nd Avenue. Have you all seen our new plaza? So we had our first plaza event this past Saturday. We had an Earth Day event. We had about 60 to 70 community members come out. We had a native plant giveaway, a bird walk. We made paper salmon hats, and a lot of kids did chalk art in the plaza space, and built a community mandala. Rocky Butte Farmers Market was there, along with the Rose City Bluff Restoration Group, and a neighborhood emergency team also was there talking to a lot of neighbors. So a really exciting development occurred yesterday when our redwood tables were delivered to the plaza. We have an 8-foot table, 2 6-foot tables, one that's an ADA kids picnic table, and an 8-foot bench. And we just put them out in the plaza. We don't know the best arrangement. So that's not the final plan or anything for the seating, but people started using the seating immediately after it arrived. And I walk my dogs there every day on the Parkway, and people are using it, bikes traveling through or stopping, taking a break. So, and these tables were provided to us by PBEM, by the Livability Program. All right, so the main thing I'd like you to know this evening is about our street mural. We have chosen dates in July where we expect it will be dry and warm, and our mural artist is available 7/23 through the 27th. So the first 2 days will be cleaning the plaza, pressure washing, sweeping, getting the weeds out of the cracks. And then we have a drying day and start prep for painting. So a lot of paint involved, a lot of supplies. We'll have refreshments for people. It'll be great. No experience is required. We have sign up forms in the lobby. Sarah is holding up a form. There's also a QR code on the flyer. You can sign up that way also. But we need a lot of help, a lot of volunteer help. So the street mural painting is slated for Saturday the 26th. We'll finish up and do touch-ups on Sunday the 27th. And we do have the backup dates planned August 9th and 10th if it does happen to rain on our July dates, but we hope it doesn't. And then this street mural is funded by a grant from the Regional Arts and Culture Council we received, and also a contribution from PBEM. The mural was designed by Megan Blossom, who's the partner of Todd Blossom, who runs the business Sandy Boulevard near the library. During our mural painting event, we will initiate our plaza naming competition to find the best name for our plaza. And then announce that winning plaza name at our grand opening party, which is September the 6th. We haven't figured out the exact time, sometime in the late afternoon. We got a grant from Southeast Uplift, our fiscal sponsor, a community grant to pay for this party. And we plan to have a DJ and a bouncy house, good food and party games, and announce the plaza name. So sign up to volunteer for these great events. You can volunteer for the mural painting or the party. But our mural and our plaza are unique in Portland street plazas because we're located in the middle of the 5 blocks of the Roseway Parkway, not in a like downtown or more industrial or school area. So our mural is nature themed. It features native species native to this area. And fits in with our parkway and our pollinator gardens we planted last fall around the 4 corners of the plaza. So that's update on the plaza development. And if you have questions, you can, after everyone is finished speaking tonight, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to give out my contact information. And I'll be in touch with everyone that signed up to volunteer, keep you updated on progress. So awesome.
Chris, can you move the slide one more so everyone can see the plaza design?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is all super exciting, and I think if folks want to give Catherine one more round of applause for all the amazing work she's done. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, I hope that y'all can come out and volunteer to help us with these next pieces to get the plaza up and running this summer, and also for sure join us at the party on September 6th because it's going to be a lot of fun. And until then, enjoy those tables and making that space a space that we can all enjoy. That'd be great. All right, so now we are going to move into the main, the heart of our presentation, our meeting today. And in order to kick us off, I'm going to invite Eric, Ian, Ava, and Miller up to the stage to introduce y'all to our newest kind of committee and group that's super local here, Roseway Prepares. And then they will hand off the mic to Kathy. Yeah, applause.
My name's Eric Berg. I've lived in Roseway since 2001. I'm an old timer. And in 2016, I went through the city of Portland's neighborhood emergency team training. It's 30 plus hours. It's FEMA certified. And really what it does is it trains people to be engaged and active in case of a disaster. Around the country is called CERT. And in the city of Portland, some neighborhoods have a team, some don't. About a year ago, I got to thinking about, I really want to do some net stuff. I started talking with our Roseway board members and the neighbors. And just in the course of this time, there seems to have been a real strong consensus among net members and board members and people in the neighborhood that preparedness is something that we want to really organize for education, outreach, and connection. So we, as RNA board, net team, and others, we have kind of done a soft launch of what we call Roseway Prepares. It's modeled after Portland Prepares, which I believe was started by Kathy. So I want to give her credit to that. So Kathy will do a great job explaining about what net is. And sorry, I thought you were. So I said I was only going to take 1 minute. I probably already have. I just want to say that Ian is the assistant team leader. I am the team leader of net. Ava is a board member, and she is here to demonstrate that you don't have to be a net member to be active. And Miller is an RNA board member who recently completed the net training. So
I'll just repeat that you see that I'm not wearing a fancy vest, and that is because my only credential and qualification is that I am curious and interested in emergency preparedness. So I am a part of Roseway Prepares because I just want to learn more. So I hope anyone else who just wants to learn more will join me.
Eric mentioned I'm Ian, and I'll be at the table at the back with Eric after the meeting. So if you have questions about how you can be more prepared or get involved with Roseway Prepares, we're your neighbors first, and some of us got some extra training for being super useful in disasters. And that's really all that we're here to do, is to help out.
And I'm Miller, and I just finished my net training and became an active net in the beginning of March. And I'm really excited to be part of Roseway Prepares and organize with some of you, I hope. Thanks.
And after this, if you want to check out roseway.org, you can go up to the tabs under resources to find emergency preparedness. It's a web page we're working on. It's kind of also the Roseway Prepares page as well. So after that, roseway.org.
So now I'm going to introduce Kathy. Come on up. Yeah. Like I said, when I first joined NET, there was a group independent of the city that had a great website with great information, and it was called Portland Prepares, and Kathy's name was all over it. If you've been around the NET program, you also know that she's been involved in the Friends of Portland NET and wins awards and gets all kinds of recognition and all that. Kathy is lives in Park Rose Argay, and she is the NET team leader there, and she is one of many NET volunteers that give these presentations. They have a pretty robust speakers group. So feel free to go back to the table and talk with us after the presentation. But I absolutely believe that in the next hour, you're going to know more about preparedness, and you ever thought you would. So, yeah.
Very much. Share here. So I can't take credit for starting Portland Prepares, but I'm very active in it. That was actually something, and if you want to check it out, it's portlandprepares.org. Check it out online, and it was started by folks up in the Arbor Lodge neighborhood. And they put it together, they started to put it together so that they could educate the other parents in the neighborhood. And it morphed into this citywide website that has all kinds of information that anyone, whether you're a net member or you're just a person who wants to be prepared, you can go and find out information on it. We also, Eric mentioned Friends of Portland Net. That is an organization that I worked on for 6 years. We finally, 3 years ago, were able to get a 501c3. So now we are a nonprofit to help the teams in order to raise money to do events like this, to be able to get supplies as they have back there, to also fill their team caches, which are storage type units that they have where they can keep things like medical supplies, their emergency response equipment, anything they might need in an emergency to go out and help. So again, I appreciate all of you inviting us to be here tonight and to give you a little information on how you can be prepared. So let's get into it. So first off, you heard earlier that this organization, the Neighborhood Emergency Teams, are sponsored by PBEM, which is the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. PBEM is a really, really small bureau. They are one of the smallest bureaus in the city. They have 16 employees, and they probably have the smallest budget of any of the bureaus within the city, fire, police, PBOT, all of those. And yet they're really responsible for so much of what all of us have been through for at least the last 5 years. I mean, think back to the early days of COVID, the fires that we had over Labor Day weekend in 2020, the snowstorms, heat dome, all of that. PBEM has literally been on constant activation since March of 2020. They have not actually had a weekend where they're not on call, which is unusual, or it was unusual until then. Now it is. They are located over on 99th and Bush, so right off of Powell. And this is their building. It's this is a great building. It is built to earthquake standard. You see the fence around there. That fence is literally built so that a semi truck doing 55 miles an hour cannot get through that fence. So it's very, very secure. They are self-contained in there. So if a major event happens, they've got places for folks to stay, for the staff to stay and sleep. They've got food supplies there. They've got everything that they would need, kind of a mini city. What will happen in any major disaster, the mayor and the city council will also head to this building. And they have a secured room in there where it's a big conference room and it's literally soundproof. So anything that goes on in that room cannot get out via anything. They've got satellite phones in there. The other thing that's in this building is BOAC. So your 911 operators are also in this building and part of the Water Bureau. All right, so most of what we're going to talk about tonight is the big earthquake. But I also want you to keep in mind, because a lot of people think, well, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. It's never happened while I've been here. Earthquake, whatever. Think about what we're going to talk about tonight, not only in the form of an earthquake, but what we've been through. We've been through a pandemic, right? We've been through the snowstorms. We've been through the heat domes. The information you're going to get tonight can help you during those events as well. So it's not all about earthquake, but that's obviously what we focus on because it could happen. So a little scary part here, but we'll get through it. Okay, so why do we prepare for an earthquake? Again, because if you're prepared for the earthquake, you're prepared for anything. So if you've got your supplies, you've practiced, something else happens, a big storm happens, you're ready. And I don't know, how many of you have lived here maybe more than 20 years? Okay, some of you. So some of you have been experienced an earthquake here. We had that spring break quake back in the 90s. You may have been here for that. We've had some other ones as well. There was a big one in the 60s that it was actually centered in Olympia, but we felt it down here to 6.4. We also had one, there was one when my mother was very young, and she said, I actually traced that one back, and I think it was also around a 6.2, 6.3. So we do have earthquakes here. They're far apart, but we have them. The one we're preparing for is Cascadia, which is the big one. So what is Cascadia? Cascadia is a subduction zone that goes all the way from Vancouver Island just down to south of Eureka, California. It's about 900 miles of coastline. And we're not the only ones that have this. You'll see in a moment that we're not the only ones on a subduction zone. The subduction zone are two plates that are kind of going under each other. So you've got the North American plate here, you've got the Juan de Fuca plate out in the ocean. And the Juan de Fuca plate is trying to force itself under the North American plate. And eventually the North American plate can't handle the pressure anymore and it ruptures. And that's what causes the earthquake. The last time we had one was January of 1700. That one was a 9.0 or greater. Obviously, we didn't have machines back then, but by carbon dating, they can tell that it was about a 9.0. So I'm talking a big earthquake. And as you can see by here, here are some of more of the subduction zones. So you can see all this yellow area. That's all various subduction zones. You can see the blue stars on there. That's where other earthquakes have happened in the last 50 years. And you see, we don't have a star. So we're one of the few places. The last one you may remember is that earthquake in Japan. That was a subduction zone earthquake. There was one a few years earlier in Chile. That was also a subduction zone earthquake. So we are susceptible, and it can happen at any moment, or 500 years from now. One thing you may ask is, how do they know when that earthquake happened? How do we know it was, I believe it was January 21st, 1700, and they know that it was at 9:35 p.m. How do we know that? Well, they know that because in Japan, they were keeping extremely good records, and a rogue tsunami came in. And by them just keeping those records, as we fast forwarded into, I think it's like the early 1990s, they were able to look at that and go, that rogue tsunami, it's the earthquake that happened here, took that many hours to get across the ocean. And they were able to actually pinpoint the time that earthquake happened here. All right. One thing that we want to be really concerned about are the various infrastructures that we have. Now, in our area, we're actually on pretty safe ground out here. The further you get past 39th Avenue, the more solid the ground is. So this side of the city, we live on the best side. We live on the best side for earthquakes too, because we're on solid ground. Whereas the west side sits on more liquefied soil. And so they're going to have more shaking, they're going to have more damage than we are out here. One thing that's going to happen that we all need to be concerned with is these critical emergency or energy CEI hubs. If you've ever driven down along St. Helens Road, you've seen all of the oil tanks that are out there, right? Those big tanks. They're out there on the river. 95% of the fuel that we get in Portland, not only for our cars, but also the jet fuel, goes to these hubs. So it's all sitting there in those tanks. And it's all sitting on liquefied soil. So what will happen during the earthquake, all of those are going to sink. We're going to have some sort of fire. This is a big deal. So you're going to hear a lot of this in the news. They are actually trying to do some retrofitting in this area. You know, there's only so much they can do because, again, it sits on that liquefied soil. But something definitely to be mindful of. And again, that would affect us because, again, our fuel comes in there. And if those go down, we have no fuel. And so, again, the liquefaction of soil. If you look at, like, think about the Pearl District, some of the other areas right along the river, those are all landfill. The river all went through there. So all of this land, all this sand and soil and all that was moved in there. Then the buildings were put up. That's the soil that will liquefy when a big earthquake happens. So a lot of those big buildings have gone up, they've drilled those foundations way down in there. You know, you're not gonna see, I wouldn't imagine you're gonna see buildings literally falling over, but some of the older ones you are, those old masonry buildings, those are gonna come down because the soil underneath them is just gonna go away. So, you know, you can see on here, imagine it's like, you know, quicksand that you saw in the cartoons when you were a kid. That's what's going to happen. That soil is just gonna get really wonky. All right. So, we made it through the really scary stuff. Now we're gonna do the prepared stuff. All right. So one thing that the Roseway team has back there are these pocket preps. This thing's really cool. So take a look at these when you get back there. These are on Write in the Rain paper, and it has all kinds of information. What Write in the Rain paper is something that you can use a ballpoint pen on. You don't want to use a Sharpie or a pencil because it will wipe off. But if you have a ballpoint pen, you can write all kinds of information on here. It's got your emergency contacts, phone numbers, you know, maybe your veterinarian's information, whatever you want to write on here. And you can carry this with you. And if you're out in the rain, if the earthquake happens when it's raining, you've got this and, you know, you're safe. The one thing I really encourage you to do in something like this is write down phone numbers. Because when the earthquake hits, it's eventually power's going to go down. Your cell phone's going to die because the battery's going to run out. And do you remember your phone numbers of your friends and family? Probably not anymore. So write things down. So that's a really, really handy tool. And they've got a lot of other great handy tools down back there for you to see too. The other thing to remember is that 95% of people rescued in any disaster, it doesn't matter if it's an earthquake, a tornado, or a tsunami, a hurricane, 95% of people are rescued by their neighbors. And I'm going to tell you right now, you know, we have this image of the disaster happens and we see it on TV and instantly here come the firefighters and here come the police and they're all right there and the nurses are there and the hospital's running and everything's great. It's not going to be that way. You figure you're going to be on your own. Realistically, you're probably going to be on your own for a couple of weeks. And what's going to happen, I don't know what's going to happen with Portland Police because I don't know what their protocol is. I do know Portland Fire and Rescue's protocol. What they will do is immediately after an earthquake or a major disaster, they, as firefighters, will go out in their own cars if the roads are passable, or they will walk, and they'll be in street roads. So you won't have a clue those are firefighters walking around. And they have this thing called an orange book, and it's in every fire truck, fire engine, chief's car, any vehicle they have, it's in there, and they all follow that same protocol. And so each station has its own map. And those firefighters are going to leave their fire station in plain clothes and they're going to walk the map. And it literally tells them, go out the front door, turn right, go 300 feet, turn left. So they literally do a perimeter search. And what they're looking for is what are the most important things that they can affect now. And the reason they're going to go out obviously in their plain clothes is because if they went out in their firefighter's uniform, I'm going to run up to them and go, hey, come over here, help me. And they're never going to get anywhere. So that's the first thing they're going to do. And it's going to take them a long time. I know in my neighborhood, we've got two fire stations, Station 2 and Station 30. For them to survey this adequately, if the roads are not passable, we're talking days to get this thing done. So again, 95% of the time, you're going to be rescued by your neighbors, or you're going to rescue someone. So really important to remember that and just to be prepared. And one thing I want you to be prepared on is think about what kind of resources you might have in your house where you could help someone. Maybe you've got extra blankets, you've got extra towels, you've got a generator. Just think about the things that you might be able to help your neighbors with. Right, so here's a test, first test. We have the earthquake right now, what are you going to do?
Rock cover, hold on.
I'm here.
I'm here. Yep. The first thing you want to do, if the ground starts shaking, we used to be told to get in the doorway. We don't do that anymore. And the reason we don't do that anymore is because we found out that if you're in the doorway and the door shuts, guess what? It shoves you out the door. So, and you can get hurt. So, drop, cover, and hold. So it definitely, the first thing you want to do is get on the ground, get under whatever you can, put the heaviest object that you can find, so a table, a desk, you know, whatever you can get under, do it. If there's nothing, if you're in the middle of the room and there's nothing to get underneath, drop, cover your head. The most important thing is to cover your head and to ball up in a little ball, because you're trying to protect your internal organs in the head. So that's the key there. And you'll see too that there are going to be folks like people in wheelchairs who can't get under that table. And for them, again, just, you know, if they can get over and get that head covered, that's going to be the most important. Also think about who's relying on you. Who do you have at home that might need you? Children? You've got pets at home that might need you. You're away from home when it happens. You've got maybe grandma's living with you and she's in a wheelchair, or she's bedbound and she might have, you know, oxygen that's going to depend on electricity. So prepare for who is at home and how you are going to take care of them. One thing that you really want to think about if you've got children that are in school, let's say you're out shopping when it happens and you're not in the neighborhood. Do you have a trusted neighbor who you've put on the school's list for people who come and get your child? So prepare for that. And again, you might have, you know, it might be your mother that's your approved person to pick up your child, but your mother doesn't live in this neighborhood. So find a trusted neighbor that can come and get them, because, you know, mom's not going to be able to drive if the roads aren't passed, but your neighbor will be able to walk. Another thing is to get to know your neighbors, not only the ones that live around you, which is very important. You want to do that. You know, you don't have to invite them to dinner every night, but get to know them. Get to know someone's name. You know, wave when you're driving into your driveway. If you can find out if they've got, you know, are they prepared for things? If you can ask those questions, do that. Get to know as many neighbors as you can, but also get to know anyone in any other community that you're in. Maybe you visit your mother frequently and get to know her neighbors. You know, you work in a neighborhood. Get to know the people that are around, maybe in your building or the surrounding businesses. Again, because you're going to need those people and they're going to need you in emergency. And like I say, you're stuck across town. You know, what are you going to do? And what do you need? If, let's say I'm out shopping, I'm downtown and I'm shopping and the earthquake happens, and I obviously live in Park Rose. The roads aren't passable, I can't drive. What am I going to do? What do I need to get home? So a lot of folks, in fact, one of my teammates has a great deal. He has a very small backpack. It's not heavy, it's very small. And he's got some snacks in there, like some trail mix, some nuts, a bottle of water, and he carries an extra pair of shoes with him that are really, really sturdy. And that's important, because if you're out, maybe you're at work and you're at an event where you're dressed up and you've got on really nice shoes, you have to walk home with them because you're gonna hurt. And in fact, they found that after 9/11, folks that had to walk all the way out of Manhattan, a lot of those people took their shoes off. Well, that's great, except now you're going to be dealing with broken glass, whatever's on the ground. So have a pair of sturdy shoes in your car and just a small backpack with some stuff, because then you've got something with you as you're walking so that you can get them safely. All right. Another thing is having a communications plan. And, you know, we all, like I said, we've all got our phone numbers in our cell phones and we call each other. But what may happen is the phones here will get so jammed that you won't be able to get a phone call to someone even down the street. So what you want to do is have a contact, preferably out of state, or at least someone east of the Cascades. And again, because they're not going to be as effective as we are. If you can have someone out of state, it's the best. So let's say you've got an aunt in Michigan, make her your contact. And let's say your family, your nuclear family is you, your spouse, and one child. All three of you should contact that relative in Michigan. They become the focal, they become the contact point you all call them, then they're able to say, oh yeah, I've already heard from your mom, she's fine. I've already heard from, Bob, he's fine. And that way you're up to date and finding out that, okay, my relatives are here fine. We're doing good. The other thing that you want to do is make sure that that person has a lot of your information, such as your insurance information, your contact information for some other people. Maybe any important documents, copies of important documents. Reason being, that person might be the one that ends up starting to file insurance claims for you while you're here without the ability to contact anyone. So it's really important to make sure that you've got that out-of-state person. The other thing too is that your phone call may not work. Text them, because text, I don't, I can't get into the technical aspects of why that works because I don't know. But texts will often get through when phone calls won't. So instead of calling them, send them a text. The other thing about a text is the text will go through eventually, the phone call won't. So if you're trying to make a call and you can't get through, stop making the call. You do that text, the text doesn't go now, but all of a sudden, 3 hours later, you've got a signal, that text gets sent out. So be sure to text rather than call. All right, so then we get into the stuff. And I know people can get really overwhelmed by this. First off, you see this list. In fact, we've got a list that I brought back there that Eric has on the table. And it's a list of 21, it's a 21 weeks to build a kit. Because you look at this list and you go, I have all of this? I can't get all of that. But if I tell you, well, on week 1, buy a gallon of water, a jar of peanut butter, 1 box of crackers, 2 boxes of energy bars, and put $1.75 away to save so you can buy a weather radio. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. And it goes on that week after week. So you're just kind of adding to it every week rather than having to get it all at once. So it's a great list that the Red Cross came up with. But now where do you put it? And I know a lot of people, live in either small homes or they live in apartments and they don't have space. So a lot of times, a lot of these things are small and they can go under furniture. They can go in small closets. Maybe you have a spot, if you were to live in an apartment building, maybe the apartment building has a storage facility that you can use. Then what do you want to have in it? Well, as we mentioned before, sturdy shoes. So sturdy shoes are going to be important. You're going to hear that a few times tonight. Always have a pair of sturdy shoes. They could be old ones. I don't like these anymore. I can't wear them anymore, but I can throw them in my kit. So they might come in handy. Also have some toiletries because we're going to be out there for who knows how long without maybe a shower working. So, have some toothpaste, have some deodorant, have shampoo, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Then there are these little Mylar blankets. These things are great. And they're really inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon. I forget how much they're really cheap. But they're great. And they fold up, they're literally no bigger than this pocket. So you can put them in a pocket and they will keep you warm. You see them all the time, like at races, and they'll put them over the razors as they come in. That's exactly what they are. I mentioned a weather radio. It's really a good idea to get a weather band radio. If nothing else, at least have a little transistor radio with an AM FM band. You'll see on here, it says 91.5 and 101.1 FM. Those are the stations that will be broadcasting information as any kind of a disaster unfolds. And so you want to tune in there. You want to have that battery operated. There are hand crank ones, and I will tell you, I have hand cranked one. It's not fun. I thought my arm was going to fall off. I cranked that thing literally for 5 minutes, and I got 3 minutes worth of time out of it before it died again. So get batteries. Very important. The other thing is a flashlight, and I recommend, as you see on here, this is a headlamp. I recommend the headlamp rather than a traditional flashlight. Reason being, it's on your head, you don't have to use your hands. Now your hands are free to do other things. So if you can get one of those, do that. Don't leave the batteries in the headlight or the flashlight though. Leave them separate. Put them, they can be in the same bag, but just don't leave them in the item that you're using, whether it's a flashlight or the headlamp. Reason being, they'll corrupt. And then when you go to use it, it's useless. So be sure to keep those separate. And then have a supply of batteries. The most common ones are going to be double A's and triple A's. And if and when FEMA gets here, they typically bring double A's, just an FYI. FEMA will be another, that's going to be an interesting one because we don't know right now how that one's going to play out. Are they going to get here? Are they going to be able to help us? Are they going to be funded to help us? We don't know. If they are able to help us, they will be landing in Redmond. The plan is they'll go to the Redmond airport because that airport will survive what's happening. Portland will. And so they're going to go into Redmond and then they'll truck over. So that's the plan at this point. Then the other thing is a whistle. And I think a lot of us don't think about a whistle. But it's really important. And I would have whistles everywhere. You put one in your car, put one in your backpack that you're going to have as your emergency kit. Put one in your house, put one in your bedroom. The reason being, if you hear a whistle, you pay attention, right? What is that? So if you need help and you're not able to call out to someone, you've got that whistle. You think about the Titanic when she's on the board, right? And she's got the whistle guy. They paid attention to her. So again, these are really cheap. You can buy a dozen for a dozen, $1.50. So they're really cheap. Have some food. And mostly in a go kit, you want things like this, energy bars, nuts. Nuts are really easy to carry because they don't need refrigeration. They don't go bad very fast. They're high protein. And the other thing is have a bottle or two of water in your go kit. And the go kit that you see here is just a backpack. So very easy to carry and have. And I carry mine in the car all the time, so it's always in the car. Another thing that we recommend is having one under the bed. And you can put this like in a small Rubbermaid container. And again, put in a pair of shoes. Put in, if you have knee pads, put those in. Gloves, heavy duty gloves. Okay, not your garden gloves. You want to get some really good heavy duty gloves. I would also recommend doing an N95 mask, which we're all familiar with those now. Because it's going to be dusty, there's going to be stuff flying up in the air. So have a mask. And also, I would recommend having some water in there, bottled water. If you have a hard hat, great. If you don't, have a bike helmet, throw that in there. And put this under your bed. Now, the important thing putting it under your bed is tie it to the bed. Because in the earthquake, if you don't, that kit is not going to be where you left it. It's going to be someone, I need another room. In fact, I had a friend of mine went through the Northridge earthquake in LA in the 90s, and she said that she found her flashlight 5 days later and it rolled down the hall and into the third bedroom. So that's why you want to tie it to the bed. So just take a little tie to the foot of your bed. And the reason that you want to have these items there is that if that earthquake happens during the night and you wake up and instantly jump out of bed, what if your window broke? You just jumped out of bed into glass. So having the shoes, the gloves and all that, you're going to protect yourself and, reach down, get that out, put those things on before you get out of bed, not hurt yourself, especially if it's at night because you won't, the lights won't be on, so you won't see. Water is super important. So the goal here is to have 1 gallon of water per person per day and per pet per day. So think about your pets too. They are saying, again, we're going to be on our own for 2 weeks. So 14 gallons of water per person. That's a lot of water, right? And you go, where am I going to put that? I don't know where to put all that. Well, as you can see, and you get it in various forms. So you can get the small bottles. Again, if you can get the small bottles, you don't want storage, just put them under your couch. Get a Rubbermaid container, slip them under the couch. If you have a water heater, I know not everyone does, because some people live in communal, buildings like an apartment building where you don't have your own individual water heater. If you do, you've got fresh water, like drinking water. The key to that, though, is that you want to shut off the water to your home, the intake to your home, as quickly as you can after the earthquake. And the reason you want to do that is to stop, because eventually sewage will start coming back up. If you can shut that off, you've got just protected clean water. And I know I have an 80-gallon tank, so I've got 80 gallons of clean water if I can get that shut off right away. That's going to take care of me. I'm going to be fine. So the water heater is really important. And that's also why you see them strapped to the wall, because we don't want that falling over, because that's a resource. If you have room outside, you can see here, there are these large drums that you can get. You can actually get, there are also cubes that you can buy. You can get water in all different kinds of configurations, but it is the most important thing. There's the rule of threes. And the rule of threes are that they say that you can live without any brain damage for 3 minutes without oxygen. I don't want to try it, but they say you can live 3 weeks without food. You're going to be really hungry, but you'll survive. But you can only live 3 days without water. So again, water is super important. And I know one thing that I've done is you want to rotate your water. I kind of feel then guilty of, oh, I don't want to throw this out. I mean, it's still water. And if you have room for it, save those bottles of water because you can use them for washing. You know, instead of drinking, use that for washing and just rotate it out. Okay, now we get into another yucky. Talk about poop. So, sanitation. Sanitation is going to be big. And, you know, again, we're going to lose plumbing. So what do you do? We recommend what they call a 2-bucket system. And so you get 2 large buckets, like 5-gallon buckets. You get a heavy duty garbage bag. And I don't mean like the ones you use for your kitchen garbage. I mean, these are really, you want the really, really heavy duty garbage bags, and line one of those, at least one of them, with a garbage bag. The one you're going to be most concerned with is the poo bucket. Urine is pretty much sanitary, and so you can literally dump that out in your yard and it's not going to hurt anyone. Poop, on the other hand, that's got some nasty bacteria. And if you can imagine 600,000 Portlanders dumping their poop out into the street, we have dysentery. And now a bunch of us are going to get sick. And if you get sick, what do? You throw up, you get diarrhea, you get dehydrated, you need more water. And then you can die. So by having this system, you'll use that one bucket, fill it with some sawdust or shredded paper. They have covers for them. They also, believe it or not, you can buy seats so that it's comfortable to sit on. And use that, and you'll be amazed at how long it will take you to fill that bucket. And especially if we're not eating well, because what you're not taking in, you're not taking out either. So you'll be surprised how much you can actually put in the bucket before it becomes a problem. When it does, you want to just wrap that garbage bag really, really tightly, securely, and then put it in some type of a large receptacle. You see on here, they've got one of the garbage bins, or one of the recycle bins. If you can get it in there, and if you can secure it somehow with a lock so that little varmints don't get in. You don't want raccoons or anything to get in there and knock it over. It's some way to secure that. And that's going to save you from getting sick. You know, also have things like, you know, the disposable gloves, the hand sanitizer, toilet paper and wipes, you know, everything to make yourself feel as comfortable as possible. Then shelter. How many of you camp? So you guys are already prepared, so I'm sure you have tents. So think about what you would do if you couldn't sleep in your house after an event. Now, you know, in all likelihood, you'll be able to go back into your house. But if you can't, you have to think about, well, okay, where am I going to sleep tonight? And how am I going to stay out of whatever weather? It's in the, you know, heat of the summer. You're going to want some shade over you. It's going to happen again. The last one was in January. It's going to be cold. So be thinking about that. And also, you see the kids here, think about something to do as well. So have some cards, have some kind of, you know, small games, something to keep you busy, because you're going to be outside bored. There's no TV, there's no computer, there's going to be no cell phone. So have some stuff to do. Food. It's always a popular one. On this one, I really recommend buying foods that you already like. Don't go out and buy something weird because you think, oh, that's the prepper food. Don't do that. Buy what you like. If you like pinto beans, then buy a bunch of cans of pinto beans. And what you want to do is rotate those. So it's something that you eat anyway. It's food you like. So if you have it in your pantry, you know, you take it out periodically. Just keep buying that, keep recycling, you know, put your new ones in the back and just keep cycling those through. And there's your emergency food supply. Tinned fish, tuna, sardines, you know, whatever type of tinned fish you like, great food source. Peanut butter, or any kind of nut butter or plant-based butter that you prefer. Again, easy to store. You like it anyway, you can rotate it through. Almonds, I love almonds. I always carry them with me whenever I travel. Again, they're easy. They don't require refrigeration. They're high in protein and they've got a lot of other good stuff. So, you know, have your favorite nuts with you. And we put in the instant coffee, even though that requires water. But most of you are going to want coffee, right? So, you know, instant coffee, it's the only thing on here that you're going to need water for. And you see the other things on the other side. You've got the mac and cheese, the dried beans, the lentils, ramen, cocoa. Yeah, those things are great. But again, that's going to take two things. It's going to take water and a heating source, which you're probably not going to have, or you're not going to want to waste your water to have some cocoa, right? You'd rather have the lentils or the, you know, the black beans or whatever. So when you're prepping your food, think about, again, things you like to eat and things that you can just keep using on your daily basis and then just replenishing. So you don't have extra stuff. All right, so again, we went through what's most important is water, 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 sanitation, your shelter, and your food. There's something else I want to say on this, but I think you can.
Sturdy shoes.
Sturdy shoes, that's right. Sturdy shoes. See? Extra points for me. One thing, oh, I think it's actually up here. Okay, so another thing, first aid kit. If you don't have one now, you know, just pick up a really, you know, small one. You can get them at any, you know, Fred Meyer, Winco, pharmacies, wherever. Just get a small one that has, you know, your normal things, your Band-Aids, bandages, some tape, gauze, tweezers, that kind of thing, so that you're prepared to help yourself out and help your family out. Other supplies, a hand turning can opener, very, very important. Although, you know, a lot of cans now do have a pull tab, but having a can opener. Blankets and sleeping bags, if you have them, have those stored. Tarps. These tarps are super important too, for two things. One, you can put them down on the ground if it's raining and wet. Now you're up off of the wet ground. So that's important. The other thing you can use these for is you can put them up around your 2-bucket system for privacy. So now you've got a little outdoor one. And then these are very important. So money is very important. And I want you to remember one thing about the money. Take out or have as much in your emergency kit as you can afford and have it in the smallest bills possible. That's important. I recommend having as many $1 bills as you can. And the reason behind that is if you, let's say you need a bottle of water and the guy's selling water bottles for $2 a bottle, which is probably not what he's going to sell it for, but he's got it for $2 a bottle and you have a $20 bill and he has no change. He just paid $20 for that bottle of water if you want. So have small bills. Also have extra medications, and you know, your doctor can usually write you another prescription. They'll probably have to pay retail price for it to have a second prescription, but you can do that. What I do is I keep a 7-day supply of my medications in my Go kit that's in my car. And then every time that I get a new refill, I take that 7 days out, put that in the house, refill within those 7 days. So at least I'm 7 days, if I'm away from home, I'm at least 7 days of, hey, I can take care of myself. Also, if you can have copies of your prescriptions or a photo of your prescription, that will be great because they will have points of distribution at some point where you will be able to go and say, hey, look, I'm out of my blood pressure medication. Here's what I take. And they'll be able to refill it. Also, you want to have copies of any important documents, your passport, your birth certificate, your insurance papers, your Pets insurance papers, people don't think about that, have copies of those. Copies of any kind of important paperwork that you think you should have, and I keep mine on just on a USB drive, and it's in my kit. And that way, when I can't get to it at home, I've got all the information I need, prove who I am and what I have, all that. If you wear glasses, whether they're prescription or reading glasses, have an extra pair in your kit. That'll be important. And then storage. I know a lot of people are worried about where do I store all this. We've talked a little bit about underneath furniture, which is great. If you've got a spot in a garage or a basement where you can put a little shelving, again with your food supplies, just rotate out of your pantry. That's gonna be easy because you don't have any extra space. You're already using it. If you do put something outside in, for instance, one of these two bin systems, be sure that you've got a lock on it. Because again, these little rascals over here are going to get in there. And your supplies are going to be raccoon food. All right, and then securing objects. As I mentioned before, I would bet that all of us have water heaters that are strapped to the wall. If you don't, that'd be unusual, but it could happen. I'll do wrong. But they're strapped to the wall so they don't fall over, and that again protects that water source where we don't lose that. The other thing people don't think about though is the pictures and the mirrors that are on your walls. They're coming down. And if they're over your couch and you're sitting on that couch when it happens, they're coming down on you. So there are some forms of like hangers that are not like the command hooks, but they're similar to that you can get where your pictures are on a more secure system than a nail or a hook. You can also replace anything, pictures that have glass frames, glass fronts. You can actually get a really nice plastic now instead of the glass, so you won't have to break it. So just think about what's around you, what's over your head, what pieces of furniture should you be perhaps securing to your wall so it doesn't fall over. And here's an example of what happens when you don't secure things in a kitchen. Baby locks. You have those little baby locks on there, and the earthquake hit. That kitchen wouldn't look like that. When you open the cupboard later, at least you wouldn't wake up and have this to have to deal with. And then there's seismic retrofitting. I don't know, have any of you done seismic retrofitting? Oh, a lot of you. That's great. So yeah, you can have that done. There are many companies will come out, they'll give you estimates. They go in and they bolt your foundation in your house so that it will not come off the foundation. It's not cheap, but it's something to look into. And I believe it also can help on your insurance premiums because safe. All right, so what do? Make a plan, start small. Don't need to, again, like I said, this take 21 weeks to get your kit together. You don't have to do it all at once. Don't let that overwhelm you. Just start preparing a little bit at a time. Talk to your family members, meet your neighbors, build your kits. Remember our 4 priorities of water, sanitation, shelter, and food. And then strapping down furniture, seismic retrofitting. And this is a big one, learn how to shut off your gas, electricity, and water. So know where your main is to your house for your water. Obviously, most of us know where our panels are in our house for our electricity. And on the gas, I do recommend that you don't turn off your gas unless there's a reason to do so. So if you smell a gas leak, turn off the gas. If there's no gas leak, you don't want to do that. And the reason I say that is that, let's say this happens in January. It's 20 degrees. It's very cold. You turn off your gas and the gas company can't get back to you for 8 months. You're now sitting there with a freezing cold house and no cooking source, but you didn't have a gas leak. So unless you have a gas leak, you kind of want to leave it alone. And once you've turned off your gas, you cannot turn it back on. Gas company has to do that. It's dangerous for you to do it. You can literally cause an explosion. So if you do turn off your gas, do not attempt to turn it back on. All right. And then additional steps you can take, I highly recommend, if you haven't already, go on publicalerts.org and sign up. This is a great deal. It will send you information on any kind of happening that's going on around you. During the Eagle Creek fire, if you remember that, we signed a bunch of people up for that, and they were able to then tell them when they could go back into their homes. So this is a great thing. And so I would definitely recommend signing up for that. Also Beacon, and you'll learn more about that with Eric back there in the back as well. Beacon stands for Basic Earthquake Emergency Communication Node. And what those are they're these large metal boxes, and they contain a lot of supplies, most of all radios. And the radios are going to communicate with the local fire station. So the earthquake happens, you as a neighbor want to either find out what's going on, or you want to get communication out to your family in another state, you can come to that Beacon site and give your information, and that will eventually be radioed from the Beacon site, which is here, to the fire station, from the fire station to the Emergency Communication Center at PBEM on Powell, and from there, then they go out in priority. So really, really good thing. And these are all volunteers that do this. If you're interested in that, it's an hour and a half of training to learn how to be a person that can help out with that. And then, as Eric said, the neighborhood emergency teams, it's 28 hours of training. So it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's a commitment, right? It's 28 hours. It's on 4 different days. And you go through 9 different classes, and then a basic or a field exercise where you actually go out and rescue people. And that's done out of the Fire Station Training Center. And what the neighborhood emergency team members do is we're here to actually help in the case of emergency. We're here to help the firefighters. In fact, we help them a lot during the year. We help them anytime there's a down power line, we get called out, and that way you don't have 4 firefighters standing on a corner. You got 2 nets standing there instead who are volunteers and not getting paid, to do that, or you have to pay people out there doing the rescuing support. So that training goes on. Then we also have additional training. If you go through that system, and there's always additional training, and all of it is free. The city pays for all of that. With that, I'm done. Any questions? You're all educated. This is good.
So Kathy, you said that the Beacon site here in the neighborhood is right here. Would people gather outside, inside? Where would they go?
Yeah, usually, and I don't know, because each neighborhood has their own protocol on how they're going to do that. But in my neighborhood, I'll tell you how my neighborhood works. Our Beacon site is not where our supplies are. We're actually 3 blocks apart, and that's done by design so that no one knows, can go pull for it. So our site where people would gather is out at the Park Rose High School. And so it would be set up somewhere either out in the field or under a covered area. And it's set up within 48 hours of the disaster. So it's not going to be right away, but about 48 hours later, there'll be people there. And then people would gather and be able to just communicate. We haven't actually activated one for a real-time event, so it's going to be interesting what happens. We practice, but we haven't actually done a real one. Yeah.
We have a question on the Zoom. Someone asks, you recommend or not recommend putting supplies in the basement?
And can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, do we recommend putting supplies in the basement? I think it's going to depend on your home. How sturdy you think your home is. I know, and for me, I've got things in my garage, but my garage is underneath my kitchen. So yeah, it's going to depend on the structure of your house, but I think you want to have some things really on all floors. If you've got a basement and a main level, I would have some supplies on both levels because you just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. The emergency shut-off valves that you can install on your gas lines. Yeah, My neighborhood looked into doing that and we decided not to because again, they're very sensitive. They're great because they're very sensitive. But it wouldn't take a really major, it wouldn't take the Cascadia's earthquake to cause them to shut off. And again, if you didn't need it to shut off, now you're without, heat. So again, it's a personal preference. Like I say, my neighborhood decided not to do it for that reason. But I think if you feel that that works for you, then absolutely. I can't hear you. Oh, do batteries keep better when you keep them? Batteries actually last for a long time. Okay? As long as you don't have them in something. If they're in something, they're going to start their life cycle and they're going to eventually corrode. And we actually had that happen at one of the beacon sites. I went to do the test and the batteries in the radio were corroded and I couldn't use the radio. So learned that one. But, and I've heard, some people keep them in the refrigerator. Some people keep them in cold places. I just keep all of mine in my laundry room on a shelf. And then the things that are in my kit, I keep those. I literally have like large pill bottles and I've just put batteries in those pill bottles and they're in my kit. Nope.
I'm a beacon. I'm not gonna say I'm a beacon very long. But it is in the field behind Prairie High School. That's where we'll get set up. But that is in the middle school. But that will be 48 hours after the big one, so it's not an immediate thing. And that's primarily to facilitate emergency communication between other emergency responders like the fire stations. So while it may be a good way to communicate that your site needs help, there's someone injured in my house, it won't be the deployment site for disaster response. If FEMA were to arrive and set up camp, they're doing that at the Rose City Park Golf Course. They wouldn't be at a beacon site. Beacon is purely.
That's the one thing with my team. We have our what we call a staging area, which is where we will gather to start our search and rescue or whatever it is we're going to do. We have that where our actual beacon cache is, but the beacon cache is going to move. And the reason being we want to separate the two. And like you're saying, with FEMA not being at the beacon site, you want to separate the two because if you have the communications area where all of the residents are coming and you've got the rescuers who are trying to do their job, they can't do their job. So that's why we separate them.
Do you mind repeating what's said in the Zoom kit here? What's happening in the room?
As far as where the beacon site is?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Sure. I did theater, so I'm used to projecting. I'm not. I am a gentleman. I was speaking that the Roseway Heights Middle School baseball field right behind the school building is where the beacon site pops up, but it only pops up 48 hours after the earthquake. So that first 48-hour period, we assume everybody is first responding. And then once it's established, it's purely to establish communications. So it's not exactly an emergency resource beyond I have somebody who needs help or I want to find out where help is. And then it's a relay network between other beacon sites, fire departments, police stations, and the big headquarters we saw at the beginning.
Yeah, so I'm sure you could go into a lot more detail about all this stuff, but water is so important, and I'm terrible about recycling my water, like replacing it, putting chlorine in the right amount. Can you just give people a really short version of like care and feeding of your water supply?
Yeah, so if you buy bottled water, it should have an expiration date on it. It actually is usually good after that expiration date. The one thing you want to do is just, smell it. If it smells off, okay, don't. You can use bleach to purify your water. And I believe it's 8 drops of bleach, and obviously unscented bleach. 8 drops of bleach per gallon. And then what you want to do is let that sit for like an hour and then give it a sniff test. And if you just smell a faint amount of bleach, you're okay. You don't want to smell like, you know, if you don't smell anything, you might want to put a little bit more bleach in, let it sit for another hour, then test it again. There are also things like light straws that people get. A lot of people that do outdoors events, you know, they'll buy light straws. Those are a good source. But yeah, again, most water is going to last longer than the date on the bottle. You will have a evaporation out of it though. So if you get a gallon of like those milk jug type gallons of water and you let that sit for too long, you'll notice it'll start going down. And I've also had them where the plastic is degraded and I've had a leak out of them. So that does happen. You got one back here.
By iodine.
Iodine tablets, yes.
Dry instead of wet. We used to use those all the time. They just gave you iodine tablets here. So there'd be a good thing to have. A small, easy to maintain. So
Fantastic. Yes. So for everyone online, that's getting iodine tablets. They're easy to store. They don't take a lot of space and excellent for purifying your water.
One thing is, but kind of like with protein, it's something that I just do daily for my lifestyle. Is it a thing called Berkey? water filter? You can just instead of attaching it to the sink, it's a countertop thing. It's a gravity fed filter that lasts forever. Because you just scrub it in the back pressure every year. It's like the groundwater when they do flushing in the city, and I can tell you. Anyway, that's one of those. In addition, if there's some stored water, it does sit a little longer. Then probably it's smell real fast, but I don't like the burn. Anyway, just an idea.
Great.
And when it comes to the scenario, yeah, I think a lot of the 5 to 7 gallon plastic scraps we do them that sort of it's really good to do compost with food scraps with something called bokashi. That's the original name, but you can find this. It's a micro that breaks down food. Basically, it's considered bucket for previous 3 months, 3 years, but it's an anaerobic fermentation that can be used for food. So I just do that in the compost. That can be the bucket, and you've got a different form of a natural cycle that's not dangerous. And you can find this stuff that it's just there's no it's stuff else. It's that is excellent. And it's a great have. And now you've got safety for the worst case scenario. Now you're going to have to start letting it sit in the bucket. But too much. After
It's true. If they go over 3 weeks, that's true. All right. Anything else?
Would you mind giving a quick summary of the Berkey filter and the Yukashi for the food there?
Yes, so there's the Berkey filter for filtering your water that sits on your counter, and you filter your water through it, and then you can drink that water because, and it's, and what you're saying is you don't have to replace that filter, it's.
Yeah, anybody can just Google it. Put the links into the same for people.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, and bring out
Yeah, and so then Dukashi for using for your poop bucket. So that you can break that the waste down safely.
It's just that way. With microbes that are safe, so that something doesn't go far off.
Right. So what she's saying is that it breaks down the microbes safely in a way that's good for the environment and safe for the people around it. Excellent. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to turn it back over and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. What can you do? One thing you can do is grab. I don't have the acting background.
Well, just for the folks at home.
What?
The
Yes.
folks at home on Zoom don't hear if we don't do it tonight.
Everyone is encouraged to take one of these. This workbook that the city uses. It's very similar to the pocket guide, but it kind of goes into more detail. It's more like a planning guide. Please sign up for the Roseway Prepares email newsletter list. We sent our first one out about a month ago. We're going to be doing that regularly. And Ian, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in maybe having the next one continue with water and how to treat it and how to use it.
Plug the website, because we put a blog post on the website about treating water and everybody can read it already.
I believe you can go to roseway.org/Roseway Prepares. And we'll also be including preparedness information with the Roseway newsletter, which I encourage you to sign up for as well. There were some real specific questions about the beacon site here. Ian pretty much explained it. I've actually never seen it. It's at a friend's house. And one of the things that I would encourage people that maybe you don't quite want to become a full-fledged net, maybe the 30 hours might seem like too much, but you want to be involved, please sign up to do the beacon training. That's a great way to become involved and engaged and have a role to play. And then as we have more people in the neighborhood that are beacon trained, we'll use it in trainings and in scenarios. And there are citywide exercises that have done throughout the year. So that'd be a great way if you wanted to volunteer in this endeavor to be a beacon volunteer. Ian, am I missing anything?
I think you got it, man.
All right. Again, thank you, RNA. It's been great working with Roseway Neighborhood Association, and it's really neighbors helping neighbors. And like I said before, I think our main focus, other than when the big one happens, is education, outreach, and connections. And I know that there's a real desire among people to meet at like the block level or even at the household levels, you know, in a lot like with the adoptive block program or the neighbor watch program, things like that, incorporating preparedness into them. So if that's something that you've done, I mean, if you've done the neighbor watch program, you want to incorporate a disaster preparedness, let us know. we'll see how we can do it. I know there's talk about doing that more at the city level, but I haven't seen anything happen. And I know that throughout the summer, we're hoping to host, households host a preparedness event with their neighbors, and we'll have net team volunteers show up and other, they kind of give the Kathy's Preparedness 101 at a very small scale. So, any questions? Am I going to go? All right, thank you. Yes, you need something to turn it off. I have a box of these. Individually, they're very light, but the box is very heavy. So I would encourage you to take it. So when I do these presentations and I do outreach and I have a table, the box I have to carry is lighter and lighter. I would appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Eric. All right, folks. Well, I'm sure y'all have plenty to talk about, and like we learned tonight, it could be that in the event of an emergency or disaster, the person that might come to your aid could be in this very room. So I want to give y'all the opportunity to mingle, chat with each other a little bit. We've got about 20 minutes that we can hang out, meet your neighbors. We've got this amazing net table back there, so you can take metal things off of Eric's hands and learn more. And Catherine's here if you want to talk about the plaza, and any of us board members are happy to chat as well. So please hang out and chat, and around 8:45, I'll come give y'all a little bit of a warning so we can make sure and get out of here by 9. But thank you so much for being here, everybody. It's great to have you. Thank you.